5 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. I was at the beach one day, and I was in water that was maybe up to my belly or so, and a gigantic fish swam past me, and he swam as fast as like a motorcycle would drive. It was like, I mean, it just went right past me, and it was heading toward you, Robin, and you were with the kids, and I said, "There's a fish coming your way," and you saw nothing, you felt nothing, and nothing happened, thank goodness. And I don't know what it was. I don't think it was a shark though, because it kind of had a pretty, like a blue-green color to it. I wish I knew what it was, but it was so fast and so big and so close. And I've only had that experience one time. But here, living in Florida, we have, my goodness, we have enough stories of people having close encounters with large fish. Sharks are the ones that come to mind most and make the news the most. Once in a while, you'll hear about a bite. Brian Skerry is on the phone. He is an award-winning National Geographic photojournalist. He's a leading voice for shark and marine conservation. He's been doing that for over 30 years. He stars in the National Geographic Wild documentary Mission Critical: Sharks Under Attack, and is a National Geographic Photography Fellow. He's talking to us about the research findings and personal experiences with sharks that may give people reason to protect them and coexist with them. And there's an article, I think, right now online on the nationalgeographic.com site with the photographs by Brian, and the article is written by Glenn Hodges. Brian Skerry, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Larry and Robin. I'm great, thanks.
We have a National Geographic photographer that lives in our community, Mark Emery.
Emery,
right? Do you guys know each other?
Geez, I don't think that I do, but you never know.
That might be like asking somebody who also lives in New York. Do you know that I got a friend in New York? So maybe there's so many people who work for National Geographic.
Well, yeah, I've worked for the magazine doing still photography, so there's a broad scope of people that work for television and so forth.
Where are you right now? Where are you calling from?
I live in Massachusetts, so I'm home in Massachusetts. I just got back a couple of days ago from an assignment in the Gulf of Maine, and headed to the Caribbean in a few days. But
oh my goodness!
At the moment, yeah,
that's exciting. And is a lot of your work underwater?
It is. I've been working for the magazine doing underwater stories for just over 18 years, and that's my specialty. So stories about either ecosystems or individual species in the ocean.
Are you comfortable swimming near big fish? Are you comfortable being near sharks?
Yeah, I am. I mean, what we're talking about here, of course, today is this story that you just mentioned. In the June issue, I did a story on tiger sharks. It's in the magazine and online, but it's actually a part of a broader series. We've got 3 stories coming out this summer. In the July issue will be a story on great white sharks, and then the August issue is a story about oceanic white-tip sharks, and then next year I have a story on mako sharks. So we did 4 separate stories and a companion television documentary about my work with sharks. So to answer your question about being comfortable, yeah, I've been diving with sharks for many years, since the early 1980s. And, I think there's always a little bit of apprehension, and you have to be smart about how you do it. But the point is that it can be done safely. And as a photographer, it's really about trying to give these animals a bit of a makeover.
Okay, I'm not much of a fisherman, but the times I've gone fishing, and usually it's to take the young boys fishing when my son and my nephews were younger, people inevitably, other adults would say, "What are you fishing for?" And I would always say fish. And I would always think, okay, there's real fishermen know how to catch the fish that they're actually fishing for. So how do you look for, and the answer to that is usually the bait, right? It's the bait.
Yep.
So how do you attract fish that you want to photograph without being eaten? Because, I mean, are you attracting them with bait?
Well, it's an excellent question, Larry. And the truth is, yeah, with all the animals that I've worked with in the ocean, I never use any sort of attractant. And it's really just about patience, and it's a testimony to the animals that often allow me into their world, whether it's dolphins or whales or seals or other species of fish. Sharks, for the most part, contrary to popular belief, are really the one sort of species or genre of animals that is very difficult to get close to. They generally don't have much interest in humans, particularly in divers, And as a photographer underwater, you need to get very close. You need to get within 2 or 3 feet many times of your subject to make a good photo. So I work with researchers around the world in various locations, and we go to the places that they know the sharks frequent or where we can predictably find them. And they do sometimes use chum or bait to get the animals close. They don't typically feed the animals, but they'll often use scent to try to attract them. And even then, they don't always come that close. And, I think I don't want to give the wrong impression. I mean, these are big predators. They are potentially dangerous, and you have to be smart about it. But I think, the myth of sharks being this sort of mindless villain that's out there just waiting to eat us is far from the truth. And if you compared what we do as photographers trying to make pictures of sharks in the ocean to a terrestrial predator photographer, they would never imagine getting out of a Land Rover in Africa with lions, or putting a piece of meat on the ground and trying to photograph a lion. That would be suicide.
Right. Well, is it fair to the shark when people go into those cages and then have all the chum and the bait, and then the shark is like attacking the cage? That seems unfair to the shark to me, even though it's scary and probably exciting to watch for the video watcher. And it's probably scary for the person in the cage, too. But is it fair to the shark?
It can be all of those things, I think. But, from my experience, and again, I'm not a biologist, but I do think that in the years that I've done those kinds of things, I don't see any impediment to the animal or to the shark. They come over. Many of the sharks that you see that behavior with cages is typically a great white shark, and they do test things with their mouth. I mean, they will come over, and sometimes the metal cage, the aluminum cage, it gives off a field in the water. When you put metal in the ocean, salt water, it creates a weak electrical field. So sharks will often, test that. They'll bite.
Oh,
that.
really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It doesn't seem to have any negative impact. I guess in a perfect world, they would be left completely alone, and there'd be no interaction. But on the other side of the equation, when you consider that more than 100 million sharks are being killed every single year on planet Earth, largely for their fins, and there's not been a lot of outcry for that. I think, having divers go out and have these interactions, we have created a legion of ambassadors who can tell people that sharks aren't so bad, and that, they can safely be encountered underwater. And I think the good outweighs the bad when you look at that sort of equation.
And there were some sharks referred to as old friends. Mary Lee was one of them.
Yeah, I mean, a number of researchers have begun over the years tagging sharks with satellite tags, which has helped sort of fill in this oceanic puzzle of where these animals go. If we are to conserve them, if we're to protect animals in the ocean, we need to know a little bit more about them. So researchers have begun tagging them with satellite tags that will stay on for a period of time, and then they pop off. They rise to the surface of the ocean, they upload that data, and you can track the movements of these animals. And by doing that, we get a better sense of where they move to, where they migrate to, where they might have their pup, where they're mating, and those critical habitats can be protected. So I think that, giving sharks names and helping the public to follow them on websites through this satellite data can be a helpful tool to sort of change the attitudes and perceptions of sharks.
Do you always go out with the same people, or are you sometimes all by yourself? How do you work? How is your work done?
Yeah, it's a great question. I typically work, with just one assistant in the field, but as I mentioned, in a story like this with, let's say, tiger sharks, or a story on great white, I'm chartering boats in various places in the world. I'm either working with a dive operator or with a scientist. Wow. And, so there may be a crew on the boat, or there are folks that are experts in that particular animal. But as a rule, it's just me and one assistant. And, if it's a coral reef story or a whale story, I'm sort of just out there trying to spend as much time as I can underwater with these animals to make the pictures that will, compel readers to care.
Wow. I don't know much about the science behind the underwater camera, but we have a gentleman here who just recently passed away last year, I think.
Yes.
And he invented the underwater camera that they use for the underwater shots, like in Sea Hunt and Tarzan. Yeah, some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a connection there, or not. But
Yeah, well, I mean, those were the kinds of stuff, and those shows and those early days was what really inspired me. You know, I was inspired watching the early Cousteau shows and Sea Hunt and, you know, Flipper and all those things as a kid growing up in the 60s and seeing underwater Florida reefs and all that kind of stuff. So
we've got 100 questions, and so do the listeners. I can see the phone is lighting up. So let's take a little break, and when we come back, if you're okay, we'll open up the phone lines. Brian Skerry is our guest. Oh my gosh, this is such a fascinating topic, and I have to go online. I went to nationalgeographic.com, but I didn't give myself enough time to look at it, so I want to see what we're talking about. We'll be right back. We're talking about swimming with tigers, and this is the tiger shark, right, that we're talking about?
Yeah, that's in the June issue is the story on tiger sharks.
Specifically.
Right.
Okay, we'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accidents on this Wednesday. Times of clouds and sun with a couple of thunderstorms around during the afternoon and evening hours. The high today 90 to 94. And partly cloudy skies later tonight. Low 73 to 77. Sunshine mixing with clouds Thursday with an afternoon or evening thunderstorm. High 88 to 92. On Friday, times of sun and clouds with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm. High 90 to 94. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
We're saving thousands with Robert Palmer.
So rule number one is always shop around. Always shop around. If you're trying to get a mortgage, if you're trying to get the best credit card, if you're looking at student loans, cell phone bills, you name it, rule number one is always shop around. Always shop around.
That's rule number one, just one more vital part of fighting back to stop being a financial zombie. Yes, you can take the mystery out of the complicated world of finances. Take charge when it comes to your money. Listen in on The Source in 96.3 FM and 1370 AM, Saturdays at 12:05.
You can't put it off any longer. It's time to replace your home's AC system.
The answer is AceSolvesItAll.com and an exceptionally efficient AC system. Let the pros at Ace show you how you can save on energy monthly and give your family added comfort. The great thing is that AceSolvesItAll.com is on call 7 to 7, 7 days a week at no extra charge.
For a limited time, mention WOCA and get a special discount.
Call 877-765-4ACE or AceSolvesItAll.com.
Here's what you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
And they found that having regular, positive contact with neighbors was linked to a greater sense of personal growth, self-worth, and purpose. Turns out some foods help us release more pheromones, which are chemicals in our sweat that send the message, hey ladies, I'm healthy and I'm worth getting to know. The problem with thinking your glory days are behind you is that it prevents you from enjoying the present.
Intelligence for your life on the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
At Ameris Bank, we understand that there is no purchase more exciting than the purchase of a new home. We are dedicated to helping you find the mortgage that meets your needs and giving you the personal attention you deserve. Our mortgage options offer a variety of benefits, including up to 100% financing, down payment assistance, and expansive credit qualifications, all with the competitive rates and exceptional service. Call Ameris Bank today or visit amerisbank.com to learn more. We look forward to serving you.
Ameris Bank is an equal housing lender and member of FDIC, a loan subject to credit approval.
That was the sound of a tree falling. It could be your tree. You're going to have it trimmed, but never got around to calling Pride Tree Service. It could have fallen in a field, and now all you have to do is call Pride Tree Service, and they'll have it quickly out of the way for a great price. But don't wait until the tree falls. It may not fall in the field. It may hit your car, your house, or worse. So call Pride Tree Service today and avoid all those headaches before they happen. Pride Tree Service, 572-2510. That's 572-2510.
All right, 19 minutes after 10 o'clock, on the phone, Brian Skerry. I am now looking at a picture of you, Brian, and in fact, I put the picture on the streaming video that we're doing. For those of you who are watching the video, now you get to see a picture of Brian, handsome guy, all in his gear, ready to go take more pictures of sharks. You have a fascinating job.
I've been pretty lucky. Yeah, I love what I do.
I hope you have direct deposit. Your checks would get so wet.
Good point.
All right, let me let some listeners say something. We've got some calls coming in. Good morning. Thank you for calling. You're on the air.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning. When I lived on Long Island, my uncle would go out on the Mako Shark Tournament every June. That was on charter boats. it was a catch and release tournament. They would bring a shark aboard and measure him and give a trophy to the guy that caught the biggest one, but they would release it each time.
Oh my gosh! You have to pull a hook out of a shark's mouth. All right. Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you. I can't imagine doing that. All right, let me take another call. Good morning. You're on the air. Thank you.
Good morning. Well, I had a few incidents with sharks, but the big one that wasn't personally involved was when I was in the Navy. The ship I was on, we always had, Eisenhower was the president, so the military was cut to the bone. So we had plenty of extra bunks. But anyway, we went out on a cruise. We took about 20 midshipmen with us from some military academy, naval academy. It wasn't West Point. Anyway, we went to the geographical center of the Atlantic Ocean. It was calm as a milk pond. I mean, I never saw anything as calm as that water that day. And it was crystal clear. We could look down the water alongside the ship and see the bilge keel and just keep visual all the way down.
Wow.
And we had swim call. And they had everything set up, the cargo net for the guys that come out of the water, the boom, so they could go out and dive and whatever else. We had the motor whale boat around, and everybody jumps in the water, mainly the cadets. And within 15 minutes, there was a shark there. And we had the motor whale boat flying around, and they had had rifles at the time, and they were shooting at the fins to keep the sharks away while we tell the guys to come out of the water. We just got in. There's sharks.
Oh, man. Oh, wow. Thank you.
Couldn't comprehend it. Anyway, by the time they finally got the message, the last guy out, as his foot left the water, the fin went sailing right by it, within inches of the steel hull, etc., etc. I never seen anything like that in my life, and I was just wondering if your guest could comment on stuff like that. Out of the blue, these sharks showed up all over the place.
Wow.
I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Brian?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about. I mean, certainly when you're out in the middle of the ocean, there are certain species of sharks that predate on anything that might be hanging around the surface. So these animals will often come in and they'll check things out. I mean, it could be a floating stick, a log, or it could be a injured fish. And their behavior is to be a little bit cautious. They generally will appear on the scene and then sort of bump things or check it out. But that's what they do. I mean, if they feel it's something they can eat, then they'll come in and bite it. If it fights back, they may be a little bit more reluctant. But, to that point, I'll also say that, we have lost most of the sharks in the ocean over the last 40 or 50 years. So when the caller was out there during the Eisenhower administration in the 50s, there were probably a lot more sharks. There definitely were a lot more sharks than there are today. There's a sort of infamous incident of the USS Indianapolis during World War II, which sunk by a Japanese submarine in the Pacific, and many of the torpedoed sailors that drifted in the ocean were taken by sharks. Many drowned as well. But it was believed that the species of shark that did the damage out there was a species called the oceanic white-tip shark, which is a pelagic animal, lives out in the middle of the ocean. That's the subject of my third story, which will be in the August issue of National Geographic. Well, the oceanic white-tip, not that long ago, in the 60s, was considered the most common large animal on the planet, large meaning anything bigger than 100 pounds. So think about that. There was more oceanic white sharks than any other animal on the planet, large animal, and today they're 99% in decline. They are on the verge of extinction in just the last 40 years because of overfishing, commercial overfishing. So, that's the mission that I was sort of set out to do, is to sort of give animals some personality, to show that they're important to the health of the ocean. When you consider that every other breath that a human being takes comes from the sea, more than 50% of the air, the oxygen that we breathe, comes from the ocean, by the ocean. And then you think about the role of predators to the health of an ecosystem. You realize we can't be killing 100 million sharks and expect everything to be okay. So, in the 40 years, we've lost a lot.
Yeah, it is an interesting balance that that nature has provided for us. I'm scrolling. Robin gave me the website and sent it to me. It's a big, long website. Maybe you have a short. But I'm looking at some of the pictures you took. The very first one is so striking because I don't know if that's you or somebody else, but standing on the bottom, and my gosh, 2 feet from you is the shark, the tiger shark.
Yeah, that was an ecotourism operator, and then out in the Bahamas, in a place that has become very popular to go and see tiger sharks. And as you point out, it's very shallow. It's only about maybe 20 feet of water. It's a white sandy bottom.
Yeah, you can see the surface. You can see the bottom, the sandy bottom, and you can see the surface.
Right, and on any given day, you can go out and encounter these animals. Now, these are tiger sharks, which, if you pay attention to such lists, they are considered the second most dangerous species of shark. They're the most dangerous in tropical waters, been presented as a monster for many, many years. But the reality is that you can go out and encounter them, and if you do it right, it can be very safe, and you can have these pretty extraordinary experiences with these animals, and they're not nearly the villains that they've been presented as.
So that's part of what we're doing today, is trying to become aware of the need to take better care.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think anyone's ever going to feel the same way about a fish that they do some furry mammal in the forest. But I think we can appreciate sharks. They haven't changed in hundreds of millions of years because they are perfect. They have evolved to a point where they're perfect for the environment in which they live, and they have very unique characteristics, and they're all different. There's over 400 species of sharks, and some can generate heat in their body. They're endothermic, like a mako that can swim at 60 miles an hour.
Right.
A tiger shark one day can be in 1,000 meters of deep ocean water. The next day they're in a marina scrounging for bait. So, they're very different animals, and I hope that we can come to appreciate them, if not, want to hug them.
Do you know, the movies make us think this, and I'm going to just tell you this, you probably heard it 100 times. I'm just curious what your actual experience is. The movies show sharks are attacking, and dolphins come and attack the sharks to protect the humans.
Yeah.
Does that ever happen?
I think it has happened, and there have been incidents. In fact, I was told about one recently where some sharks sort of began circling some divers I know out in Baja in Mexico, and dolphins actually came in to their aid.
Really?
I think it's a pretty rare occurrence, and probably, you could dive your whole life and not have that experience, but it has happened. So, yeah, I think that kind of thing can certainly happen.
So dolphins are the smart animal that we're told that they are probably smarter than us. It's just that they don't have thumbs. Did you ever hear that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a story last year for National Geographic. It was in the May issue, all about dolphin intelligence, and I spent 2 years working on that. And, yeah, I do think that they're extremely intelligent animals. They have high cognition abilities, and the reality is that we don't know very much about them. I mean, we've only scratched the surface in terms of understanding the dolphin's world. They have a brain only second to ours in terms of size to body ratio in the animal kingdom, but how they use it is much of a mystery. They're acoustic animals. They see their world with sonar and acoustically. They live, in the ocean, so it's hard to study them. So I think they are very, very intelligent. They're very smart in the ocean. They have societies in the sea. Wow. We have a long way to go to fully understand them.
The website is nationalgeographic.com, and from there, I don't know how to direct people to find this particular article. Do we type in the title?
You know what? I think the easiest way to navigate, if you went to Google or a search engine, you would go to National Geographic Magazine. So the magazine website, which is within the National Geographic website, would have the current issue up, so that they would actually have the June or the July issue. So my July story is about great whites. June was tigers, and you can find both on the National Geographic magazine site.
I love this topic, and I love the photography you've taken. Gosh, this is awesome stuff to look at. Brian Skerry, what an honor. Thank you so much for being on our show today.
Oh, it's a real pleasure, Larry. Thanks to both of you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. We will be right back.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Searchers are hoping daylight will help them locate a 2-year-old boy grabbed by an alligator. The mission is now search and recover.
This happened just one monorail stop from the Magic Kingdom just after 9 o'clock last night. Authorities worked all night long. Once the sun came up, they did bring in some more people to aid in the search. They've been using helicopters and they've been pointing sonar at the man-made lake that gets to be 14 feet deep in places and does connect to other waterways here at Disney World. Divers are standing by.
Fox's Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders sitting down after the D.C. primary last night. Fox Radio's Rachel Sutherland reports.
The Vermont senator has not conceded, and as the ballots were being cast, he sounded resolute.
What this fight has always been about is transforming America.
The meeting was to talk about unifying the Democratic Party. Fox News, we report. You